It seems like every day there's a new headline about the next big thing in tech, right?
Yeah.
But today,
Mm-hmm.
we're diving into something that could completely change the game.
Okay.
A single chip that can handle any computing task you throw at it.
Really?
I know.
Wow.
It sounds like science fiction.
It's a bold claim,
Yeah.
for sure, but it's coming from Ubitium, a stealth startup that's attracting serious attention.
Interesting.
And for you, as someone who wants to cut through the hype and understand the tech that really matters, this is definitely worth a closer look.
Absolutely. So what's got everyone buzzing about this Ubitium?
Well, they're saying they've cracked the code on something called universal processing architecture.
Universal processing architecture.
Yeah, instead of having different chips for AI graphics, general computing, all those separate tasks,
Yeah.
they've figured out how to make one chip do it all.
Wow. So instead of having like
Wow.
10 different chips in your phone
Exactly.
or whatever, you just have one
One chip.
that does everything.
What's fascinating here is that this goes against the grain of how we've been designing chips for decades. We've always specialized. A chip for this, a chip for that. It's led to a lot of complexity and, frankly, inefficiency.
Okay.
Think about your smartphone.
Okay.
You've got a separate processor just for handling AI tasks.
So like when my phone recognizes faces in photos.
Exactly. But the problem is when your phone isn't doing something AI-related, that specialized processor is just sitting there idle.
Oh.
It's a bit like having a dedicated pizza oven in your kitchen that you only use once a month.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It takes up space, and it's not very cost-effective.
Okay, I see the problem.
Yeah.
So Ubitium wants to replace that whole system with their single do-it-all chip.
Right.
But how on earth does that even work? Is it some kind of magical transformer chip?
It's not magic,
Right.
but it's definitely cutting-edge engineering. Their solution hinges on this idea of dynamic adaptation.
Dynamic adaptation.
Instead of having dedicated hardware for each task, the chip reconfigures itself on the fly based on what you're asking it to do.
Hold on. I need to wrap my head around this.
Sure.
Are we saying the same transistors can be used for, say, processing video 1 minute and then running a complex AI algorithm the next?
That's the idea.
Real?
Ubitium's secret sauce is in their control systems and software.
Okay.
They've found a way to analyze incoming workloads and instantly reconfigure the chip's architecture to match the task at hand.
That's incredible. But wouldn't that create all kinds of bottlenecks and slow things down?
That's one of the big technical hurdles Ubitium has to overcome.
Yeah.
And to be fair, it's a monumental challenge.
Right.
But their early simulations and prototypes suggest that they might actually be onto something here.
Huh.
Remember, they've managed to secure $3.7 million in funding already.
That's a good chunk of change.
It is.
Clearly, some serious investors are seeing the potential here.
Yeah.
So if this technology works as advertised, what kind of impact are we talking about?
The potential is enormous.
Okay.
Let's start with the obvious, cost.
Okay.
Ubitium claims its approach could be up to 100 times cheaper than current methods.
100 times.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
It is. And think about the design implications.
Right.
No more juggling a dozen different specialized chips.
Yeah.
Ubitium's chip could streamline everything, leading to faster development cycles and more compact devices.
Okay. I'm starting to see why this is generating so much buzz.
Yeah.
It's not just a faster chip. It's a completely new way of thinking about computing.
Exactly.
But what about real-world applications?
Sure.
Where would this kind of universal chip really shine?
Think about the Internet of Things or any situation where you need to process data at the edge.
Okay.
Suddenly, your smart devices don't need a whole suite of processors to handle different tasks.
Yeah.
One chip can do it all, making those devices cheaper, more efficient, and more powerful.
So we could see everything from smarter home appliances to more responsive self-driving cars, all thanks to this one tiny chip.
Exactly, and that's just scratching the surface.
Why?
The possibilities are pretty much endless.
Okay.
But there's one more piece of the puzzle I want to point out,
Yeah.
and that's Ubitium's commitment to RISC-V compatibility.
Okay. RISC-V.
Yeah.
Refresh my memory on what that means and why it matters in this context.
RISC-V is an open-source instruction set architecture.
Okay.
Essentially, it's a set of rules that determine how software talks to hardware.
Got it.
By designing their chip to be RISC-V compatible, Ubitium is making it incredibly easy for developers to write software for it.
Oh.
It's a smart move, especially in fields like robotics where open source tools are really taking off.
So it's not just about the chip itself. It's about building an entire ecosystem around it.
You got it.
Interesting.
Ubitium isn't just trying to build a better chip. They're trying to democratize access to powerful computing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a story worth following closely.
You've definitely got my attention. But
Good.
before we get too carried away, we need to remember that Ubitium isn't the only player in this game.
Right.
There are other companies out there working on their own solutions for next-generation computing.
That's right. Companies like NVIDIA and Cima.ai are also pushing the boundaries of what's possible,
Oh.
especially when it comes to AI processing. NVIDIA's Jetson chips and Cima.ai's Modalix chips are both designed specifically for AI workloads, and they're delivering some impressive results.
So it sounds like we've got a real race on our hands, a race to define the future of computing.
Absolutely, and it's a race with high stakes. Whoever wins could end up reshaping entire industries.
Wow.
But we need to be realistic. Ubitium is still a young company. They have a prototype, a development kit, and a lot of ambition, but they're not expecting to ship their first chips until 2026.
So we have a bit of a wait-and-see situation.
We do.
But even if they don't hit that 2026 target, the fact that they're pushing these boundaries is a sign of things to come.
I agree. Ubitium's work is a glimpse into a future where computing power is more accessible, more versatile, and more integrated into our lives than ever before.
And that's a future I'm definitely excited to explore.
Me too.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's take a closer look at how this dynamic adaptation actually works.
Okay.
I'm still a little fuzzy on the details.
Happy to delve deeper. It helps to think of it like a city with adaptable infrastructure. Imagine during rush hour, more lanes are dedicated to cars for smoother traffic flow, but then at night when the traffic dies down, some of those lanes can be repurposed for bikes or pedestrians.
Okay.
Ubitium's chip works in a similar way.
Interesting.
It dynamically allocates its resources, those transistors, based on the specific demands of the task at hand.
Okay, I'm starting to see the analogy. So if I'm just browsing the web,
Right.
the chip dedicates a small portion of its transistors to that task.
Mm.
But if I fire up a graphics-heavy video game,
Yeah.
it shifts gears and allocates more resources to the graphics processing.
Exactly. And the beauty of this approach is that it avoids those wasted resources we see in traditional chips, where specialized processors sit idle when they're not needed.
Right.
Ubitium's chip is always working at peak efficiency, using only the resources necessary for the job.
It's like having a Swiss Army knife of processors, one tool that can adapt to a multitude of needs.
Exactly.
But this idea of reusing transistors on the fly still feels a bit like science fiction to me.
Sure.
How they actually pull that off?
It's definitely pushing the boundaries of chip design. Ubitium has developed a sophisticated control system that acts like an orchestra conductor.
Okay.
Just as a conductor directs different sections of the orchestra to play different parts of a musical piece, the control system analyzes the workload and directs different groups of transistors to handle specific tasks.
So it's not just about the hardware.
Right.
It's also about the software that orchestrates the whole dance.
Precisely, the software is just as crucial as the hardware in making this dynamic adaptation possible. And Ubitium has had to come up with some incredibly innovative solutions to make it all work seamlessly.
It's mind-boggling to think about all the complexity happening at the microscopic level.
Right.
But let's talk about performance for a second.
Okay.
Can a single universal chip really compete with those specialized processors that are optimized for very specific tasks?
That's the million-dollar question, and to be honest, it's too early to say for sure.
Yeah.
Ubitium is confident that their architecture can match and even surpass the performance of specialized chips in many cases.
Okay.
They argue that their dynamic allocation leads to a more efficient use of resources, which translates to better overall performance.
So instead of having a bunch of specialists working in silos,
Right.
they have a team of generalists who can collaborate and adapt to any challenge.
That's a great analogy. It's about striking the right balance between specialization and flexibility.
Okay.
Of course, the real test will be in real-world applications. We'll have to wait and see how Ubitium's chip performs in independent benchmarks and once it's integrated into actual devices.
Fair enough. But even if their performance isn't quite on par with specialized chips in every single scenario, the benefits of cost reduction and design simplicity could still make this technology incredibly appealing for a wide range of applications.
Absolutely.
Especially in areas where cost and power consumption are critical factors.
Think about edge devices and embedded systems where every millimeter and milliwatt counts.
Right.
Ubitium's chip could be a game changer in those domains.
Speaking of edge devices, Ubitium seems to be laser-focused on that market. Why is that?
Well, the edge is where data is generated and collected from sensors in a factory to cameras in a smart city to wearables on your body. Processing data at the edge instead of sending it to the cloud offers significant advantages.
Okay.
Faster response, times lower latency, and enhanced privacy.
So Ubitium is betting that their universal chip is the key to unlocking the full potential of edge computing.
Precisely, a single chip that can handle both AI and general computing tasks would be a perfect fit for the diverse demands of edge applications.
Yeah.
Imagine a security camera that can not only record video but also analyze it in real time to detect suspicious activity, all thanks to one chip.
Dang.
Or a medical device that can collect and process patient data, instantly giving doctors immediate insights.
It's incredible to think about the possibilities, and with the Internet of Things expanding at an exponential rate, the demand for powerful and efficient edge computing is only going to skyrocket.
Right.
Ubitium is definitely in the right place at the right time,
I agree.
but let's not forget about the competition.
Sure.
We mentioned NVIDIA and Sigma.ai, both working on specialized AI chips. How does Ubitium's approach compare to what they're doing?
That's a key question. NVIDIA's Jetson chips and Sigma.ai's Modalix chips are both designed specifically for AI workloads,
Right.
using specialized architectures and hardware accelerators to deliver exceptional performance in areas like image recognition, natural language processing, and machine learning.
So it's a classic battle of specialist versus generalist who will come out on top.
It's too early to say for sure. The market will ultimately decide. But one thing is certain, the competition in the AI chip space is intensifying, and that's great news for innovation.
Absolutely. More competition drives progress, but we need to stay grounded.
Yeah.
Ubitium's a young company with a lot to prove.
You're right. They're talking about shipping chips in 2026, which is still a few years away.
Right.
And as we know in the tech world, a lot can change in a few years.
True. But even if Ubitium faces delays or setbacks, the fact that they're pushing the boundaries of what's possible with chip design is incredibly exciting.
I couldn't agree more. Their work is a window into a future where computing power is more accessible, more versatile, and more integrated into our lives than ever before.
It's definitely a future worth pondering. So what does all of this mean for our listeners?
Yeah.
What should they be thinking about as they follow this unfolding story? It's a lot to take in.
On one hand, you've got this potentially game-changing technology that could make powerful computing available to everyone.
Right.
But on the other, there's this uncertainty. Will it actually live up to the hype?
It's a classic dilemma in the world of emerging tech. The potential is enormous, but so are the challenges.
Yeah.
And as with any disruptive innovation, there are bound to be winners and losers along the way.
That makes me wonder if Ubitium's approach takes off.
Yeah.
What happens to all the companies that specialize in those individual chip types?
Right.
The CPU makers, the GPU giants. Are they going to just sit back and watch their markets evaporate?
That's a great question. If Ubitium succeeds in creating a truly universal processor that can outperform specialized chips in a wide range of applications, it would undoubtedly send shockwaves through the entire semiconductor industry.
Wow.
Companies that have built their empires around CPUs, GPUs, and other specialized chips would be forced to adapt or risk becoming obsolete.
It's like the smartphone all over again.
Remember when we used to carry around separate devices for music photos navigation?
Right.
Suddenly, the smartphone came along and integrated all those functions into one sleek device.
That's a perfect analogy. And just as the smartphone revolution created new industries and opportunities, so too could the rise of universal processing.
Yeah.
We might see a surge in innovation as developers and entrepreneurs find new and creative ways to harness this newfound computing power.
It's both exciting and a little bit daunting to think about the ripple effects this could have.
Sure.
But I guess that's the nature of technological progress, isn't it?
It is.
It disrupts the status quo and opens up new possibilities, both good and bad.
Precisely. And it underscores why it's so important for us as informed citizens and consumers to stay ahead of the curve.
Right.
We need to understand these technologies and their potential impact so we can navigate these changes thoughtfully.
So what's your advice to our listeners? Should we all be pre-ordering Ubitium chips and getting ready for this universal computing revolution?
Hold on. I wouldn't recommend rushing out to buy anything just yet.
Okay.
Remember, this technology is still in its early stages.
Right.
Ubitium hasn't even finalized the design of their chip, let alone started mass production. A lot can happen between now and their projected 2026 launch date.
Okay, so maybe hold off on the pre-orders for now.
Yeah.
But what about staying informed?
Sure.
Any tips for our listeners on how to keep track of Ubitium's progress and the broader trends in universal processing?
Absolutely. First, I'd suggest keeping an eye on Ubitium's website and social media channels.
Okay.
They'll likely announce major milestones, partnerships, and product updates as they get closer to launch.
Makes sense. What else?
Beyond that, I'd recommend following industry publications and tech blogs that cover semiconductor technology and edge computing.
Okay.
They'll provide more in-depth analysis and insights into the competitive landscape and the latest advancements. And
Of course, keep listening to the deep dive.
ex-
We'll be sure to keep you updated on all the twists and turns of this fascinating story as it unfolds.
indeed we will. This is a saga that's just beginning, and we're all eager to see where it leads.
So buckle up, listeners.
Yeah.
The future of computing is about to get a whole lot more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows, maybe one day we'll all be carrying around a little piece of Ubitium in our pockets, unlocking possibilities we haven't even dreamed of yet.
That's a thought-provoking image to end on. The future is unwritten, and the potential of universal processing is vast. It's up to all of us to shape that future responsibly and creatively.
Absolutely.
Thanks for diving deep with us today.
And we'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.